And that was a live action replay of the AFL and Buddy's elbow. What a joke.
Was that the tribunal making their decision? No, it's all good.
Nothing to
All
see
good.
here. Nothing to see
Nothing
here.
to see here. It's funny that in a week the AFL comes out and says that you can't. They don't want boxing at training. That the same week that they let a guy off for elbowing a guy in the head.
Yeah, no boxing in case you get concussed, but
Yep.
but at the same time you can swap the ball from one arm to the other and elbow a guy in the head. No worries. I did see though that Luke Ryan actually got suspended for headbutting Buddy's elbow. So
that wouldn't surprise me. Freo, they don't really care about him.
No,
They're protected in Freo, are they?
Don't care about Freo.
No.
Words to live
Anyway,
by.
we should get on to the positives.
That's enough of that because I think everyone kind of agrees that's a bit garbage. But as long as he doesn't kick his 1,000th goal this week, we'll be fine.
Oh God, how many does he take? How many does he need to get there just to check?
17.
Oh God, I hope not. He couldn't. Could he?
He could. He likes Essendon. He has more goals against Essendon than any other club.
All right, Sam, give us the facts.
All right. I'll start with the last time we played.
Oh, well, how about when this game is?
Well, let's deal with the past first.
Oh.
And then we'll get on to the now. Swans by 3 points. Probably one of the better games of the season. At least our season. At that point, it was only round 4. At that point, it was two young sides. Both had started okay. We were coming off the win against St Kilda.
Yeah, they were undefeated.
Swans were undefeated. Unfortunately, Buddy stole the show a bit in that, and it was meant to be about the kids, which was a bit disappointing. For us, Merritt had 27 touches, and if I could find the clearances stat, 3 clearances. Ridley, 28 touches, probably at 100%, because that's what the man does.
And grumpy the whole way through it.
And pissed off, yep. Darcy Parish, 25 touches and 6 clearances. 5 tackles to go with that, which is quite nice. Zachy Merritt had 9 tackles too. Other than that, not a lot in terms of disposals for us. Cale Hooker kicked 3. It's an interesting little segue. Should have saved that until last. Stringer kicked 3. Waterman 2. Nick Cox had a good game, 18 touches and a goal. And that just about rounds it out. This time round,
which is on Saturday night. We should let people know, just in case.
Saturday night, not Friday night, not any other night, as someone may have you believe. It is on Saturday night. Shit.
Still up in Queensland for some month. Can you explain to me, Sam, why we weren't allowed to come home and Sydney travelled down here to play us?
Like a lot of things at the moment, it's all because of New South Wales.
Bloody New South Wales.
We're not going to get political, but that'll do. For this game, as you say, we're in Queensland. We're at the Gabba this time, though, not Metricon, which is interesting.
That's good. I prefer the Gabba, actually.
For us, Francis, Clark and Langford come in. Ham, Hooker and Zaharakis out. Also out is Guelphy as the unused medical sub. For them, some handy ins. Callum Mills and Harry Cunningham for Ronk and Rowbottom, and Hayden McLean was their medi sub from last week, is also out.
Callum Mills finds the guests to come out of the motel.
Yeah, great in for them.
Oh,
first of all, that strengthens a pretty good side already. But of course, we will just talk about us for the minute here. Now, I don't really know where to start with this. Obviously, Hooker's the big talking point.
Yeah, let's just start with the. Do we get the negatives out of the way of the outs, and then we can move to the positives of the ins?
Well, I think the natural place to start is Hooker.
Yep.
Because that is the talking point. We talked about it in our wrap of last week that it was interesting that Francis played forward in the VFL last week, and then we kind of flirted with the idea that could be a change. I don't think either of us really believed it would happen. It has happened, although, as you pointed out, Francis off the pod, Francis is named at fullback and Stewart is named at half forward. Now, of course, these aren't gospel.
No, and I did think that Stewart's the practical one. If we're looking for that extra tall, a lot of people talk about, who's the big body to go forward and replace Hooker? That's obviously, I think, is Stewart. He's 199 centimetres, same height, I think, as Hooker. Probably a little bit lighter because Hooker's carrying a few keggers.
Yeah.
But he's the guy that can be that foil with Peter Wright down there. I think, and the only issue I think we talked about this was that but they've obviously planned him to play back. But I would like to think that we've got flexible players in these roles, and that they're going to have to go forward and back at certain times to cover things and issues.
Yeah. I think Stewart's an interesting one because he's been outmarked a bit the last couple of weeks. So from that point of view, maybe he just goes forward for something a bit different. But I think it's interesting that Francis was the one that played forward in the VFL, and now if he comes in to play AFL as a defender, it's a bit weird. So I wouldn't be surprised if that isn't how it actually lines up.
I agree with that, and just to go on that, I don't think Sydney have their big if you look at their defenders too. If I was just to sort of talk about the roles that guys like Rampy and Lloyd and those sort of guys that are down there, they're halfback. They're not big. They're much more mobile and sort of.
They do get a bit taller when they climb the posts, though. I'll admit.
Good reference.
But yeah, valid point. They're not huge. We need to just spend a little bit of time here talking about Cale.
Mm-hmm.
Before we start, love Hooksy. Great servant for the club, but no one's bigger than the club, which we know. What does it mean? Is it just? Do you reckon it's omitted? Is the official term? Do you reckon it's a bit of
dropped?
Yeah, dropped. But do you think it's just have a spell?
Well, it'll be interesting, I guess. Obviously, I haven't seen VFL teams or anything like that. So if he plays VFL this week, they're still obviously trying to keep. He needs to go back and find. I listened to Truck's sort of the not presser, but the chat he has video, with the Essendon guy, for the lineup, and he sort of indicated that Hooker needs to go back and find that form in the VFL. And I think they're saying that, like the last few weeks, we haven't scored much more as a team than 60-odd, 70 points, which is just not good enough.
Seems reasonable, yep.
Yeah, and so as from a team perspective, it's not working, so they're looking at other options. And that's totally understandable. It's round 19, and for the last 5 rounds, we haven't been a good forward team. So we're still a young team. Why not?
It's round 20. It's round 20. It's all right. I've been guilty of that. I'm all for it. Like, with your senior players in particular, you do tend to stick with them a bit more.
Yeah, of course.
I think Hooker's been stuck with a lot more over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks. He could have very easily have been
4 or 5 personally, but yeah.
Very, very easily have been told you're going to go back to the VFL for just a week to see if you can get some form back maybe a month ago. So it is interesting. I hope that's not it. He's been a great servant for us and been through a lot.
But if that is it, then that's just sometimes football.
That's footy. Yeah, it is.
You don't always get your fairy tale finishes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
But in a club where we're not going to make finals, and it doesn't really matter too much. I mean, it's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but it all depends on what the future is at the club. And I don't know, like if he's walking around talking about next year, or if he's keen for next year, or if they're keen for next year. I don't know any of that sort of information.
If he's getting dropped now, that makes next year
exactly
even more in question.
You'd be like,
I was critical of the Bell Chambers scenario because of the uproar about him not getting a farewell. I didn't think that was different because Draper had a chance to play against Gawn.
Gawn, yeah, which was important for his development.
In this instance, there's no one else that's missing out really if Hooker plays. So I hope that's not the end of him. But
the other thing too is Kyle Langford probably will play a lot more forward, I would have thought, too, in this game. He's a bit of an everywhere man for us.
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to see how we play, I guess. Because Franklin, I reckon Francis has played on him a bit when we've played them before.
Jesus, we've got no matchup, really, do we?
Oh, it's just very hard to match up with Buddy Franklin. The guy's nearly kicked 1,000 goals, mate. Like, you don't have that defender floating around in every club.
You just duck a bit. All right. I think that's enough said on Hooker.
Hooker.
I don't think anyone's overly surprised. But
the other interesting out I thought was probably Zaharakis. He got a game. He was, I think, would agree, poor.
Very.
Is he contracted next year?
No. I'll check that. Sorry, keep talking.
Yeah, but I would. You'd struggle to think after that, like to come in for a game, not perform, and then be dropped. Tells me
that's not a good sign either.
That's not a good sign for next year.
Zaharakis is uncontracted this year, so he's
I
probably
reckon that could have been. He's close to last game too.
Again, no disrespect there. The guy has,
been
and same
awesome.
with Hooker. We got some fairly good memories of these guys, but there comes a time.
But you can't keep playing them just because
No,
we love them.
I know. I'm agreeing with that.
This is nothing personal. This is a business.
Keeping the balance of.
But I know some people get. It's funny on different social medias how people, you can't say that about him and all this stuff. Well,
Exactly.
we pay a membership. We're allowed to say if a player's not playing well.
And this is.
I'm certainly not having a go at him as a person or as a.
This is my angle because if you're listening to this, you're probably on our Facebook page, Glory and Fame. You don't have that insight because you're not an admin on that page. I am and have been for 6 years.
I don't have Facebook.
You can't say anything without sort of copping it. And we've had a lot where we've been critical and then people have sort of had a go at us. So that's the only reason I say the positives before I say the negative.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I find it hard pressed for anyone to think that that's what we're saying is anything other than just talking football.
Yeah, and there's no surprise in either of those calls.
Yep.
The other one is Dylan Clark. First time we see Dylan Clark, Dylan Clark and Sam Draper in the same team. I admittedly only one game saw these two play together in the VFL some years ago, and it was a better love story than Twilight.
Well, he had 30-odd touches in the VFL on the weekend. He's come back for a few games. He's obviously had pretty bad injuries throughout this year. My knock on him from seeing him previously has always been his disposal.
Yep.
And
he's also out of contract.
Where's he named too? Is he just on the bench or has he actually been given a spot on the field?
He's on the bench. He's on the interchange.
Yeah.
He's another one that's out of contract. So it might be another one where we're going, Dill, give us your best. I've been really excited since that one VFL game to see him and Draper in the same side. Mm-hmm. They seem to just have a connection. Now, it's been 5 years, 3, 4 years, whatever. So, who knows?
Well, I hope that then he's given the next 3 games to play and say, well, let's see what you've got. I know that's not a lot if you're at the end of your contract, but I also know he's been injured, so that they probably didn't want to bring him back in too early and he would then perform worse. So... And they've tried to get him right for it.
He's not even 23, so he should get those games. The difference there with us, like a Zaharakis, he's had his time. He's had his time.
Yep, we know what we're getting.
Yeah, but I'm more than happy for Dill to get his.
So I get a lot of this. The vibe I'm getting from this selection by talking it through is that where this is a team that's looking to the future and looking to make decisions maybe now. Yep. That help it in 2 or 3 years. Would you agree with that, or is that's how I'm seeing it right in this selection?
I think we've certainly got an eye to next year in that because Zaharakis is out of contract, Cale Hooker's out of contract, Dylan Clark's out of contract. So there's guys there, 2 towards the end of their career, 1's probably fighting for their career. So yeah, definitely an eye to the future.
Yep.
Couple of interesting ones. Langford's named in the guts straight off the bat. Zach Merritt as well in there with him and Parrish. Sam Durham on the wing. That's good to see.
Yeah, I like that. Sam Durham, Nick Cox. That's a very young wing. Like
that's a great
19-year-old and an 18-year-old.
Probably the only one two I'm really interested this week will be Waller. Just a bit more out of him would be nice.
About him, yeah.
And Shield, how he goes second game back.
Yep. I did have a look at his CBAs from last week, and they were pretty low.
And for those that aren't aware, centre bounce attendances.
Oh, come on!
It took me a second, just in case.
He obviously played either on a wing or on a half forward. Like he didn't play in the guts, so that was interesting.
Protecting him a little bit, I would.
Of course, yeah, of course. His fitness was an issue, but it was still anyway interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with the Sam Durham. I'm really interested to see how he goes in another game.
He looks okay.
He's been great in the first
Without getting a lot of football, he's thereabouts. Now, I've done some research. Dangerous, I know. On average.
Wiki or
not on average. I had a thought and then I looked into it.
Oh, jeepers, Sam. Take me there with you on the journey.
So, our last 4 matches have been decided by a combined total of 24 points.
Our last 4 matches.
Yes. So
That's not bad.
that is a 3-point loss earlier this year, a 6-point win last year.
Oh, this is just against Sydney.
Just against Sydney.
Oh, right.
A 5-point loss in 2019. It must have been late 2019, and then a 10-point win to us later on in 2019, or the other way around, whichever. And then we had a blowout in 2018. Before that, we had a 1-point loss in 2017. That's the game that still gives me nightmares.
Is that the one where we were up by?
Yes. Move on.
There's a hole in our wall in our house, our previous house from that one.
Oh, there's a hole in my heart from that game. That broke me. That broke me.
Broke me too.
A 65-point loss. That was the final. We let them have a 10-goal quarter, and that was about it. 12-point loss, and then it blows out a bit from there. So recently, very very much so recently, we have good games against Sydney. I think this one's got a little bit of a potential to blow out. Yeah.
You've just got, it's like when they're having a shot at goal, you say, oh, you're very reliable.
He's reliable. Yeah, Peter Reich, 03.
Peter Reich. Well, this is going to be a blowout. This game. Everyone.
Sorry, split system. Stick to my nickname.
Don't go in with high hopes, people.
And there's always drama against Sydney. We had that one where holes were punched in walls and hearts. And there was the postgate. Dean Rampy, sorry.
Which had 2 things in it, because wasn't there a dodgy free kick before that? I
don't remember that bit. I know, all I remember is the post bit and being super impressed and amazed that Stringer knew the rules that well.
Yeah.
Because that was a pretty obscure rule.
Yeah.
And the umpires didn't even know it. And then the umpires and the AFL ticked it off.
Anyway. At least it's not been played in Sydney.
No, that's good. I mean, we have played them in Sydney this year and only got done by 3 points, but I think they're 2 different sides now. Where Sydney you're talking about as one of the form teams in the comp, and us we're probably struggling a little bit. Yeah,
I do though, for some strange reason, and I don't know why. There's no logic to this. I have more confidence going into this game than I did last week.
I do too. I have this theory that we played a little bit to our opponent's level. And that is that we're playing a good side. I not always, but I more expect us to play good football against a good side. But it's the games against North Melbourne, particularly earlier in the year, where I sit there and worry. And the fact we flogged them told me a lot about where we're at. But like you said, I'm more confident now just because we're playing a good team and we're more likely to bring... I don't know. That's probably just Essendon of old.
My theory is more around the fact that we've dropped a guy like Hooker, probably less Zaharakis, but a little bit of that, is that that's the biggest message I can think of in a long time.
Do you know what it is?
What?
There's no way in hell Woosha would have done that.
Oh, God, no. God, no.
And that's probably just a nice, refreshing...
Or they might have said that he was injured.
Yeah, or managed.
They would have tried to let it off like that, but no, Trucks come out and said, no, his form's not good enough, he's out.
It's a nice, refreshing slap across the face where we go, they're actually thinking about our future and thinking about what's next.
And then the natural progression of that is the players go, oh, well, hang on, I better pull my finger out and play some decent footy because I might be on the chopping block. Guys like who we're talking about, a Smith might be, Tipper, guys like that who think that they're even a bit
safe when Trucks
bit of red dog, actually, there's another guy that can take my spot. I
saw a few highlights of Redmond last week. Jesus,
were they highlights?
Lowlights. I didn't really appreciate how poor a game he had.
I didn't think he was good last week. Yep. And I've loved him all year, but last week I was like,
and then he's allowed one game, but poor.
So that's my theory, is that I'm hoping that there are players that go, shit, we better lift, boys. And if they don't, well, then we'll find out the week after that what happens again.
Well, I think the biggest statement would be if Waller has a poor game. Yeah. That's the next big statement and especially if he's AFL listed, I still haven't checked that. Has a good game this week. That in the VFL, that's going to be interesting. Now, I just wanted to throw back to our last...
He's listed.
Good,
number 49.
I'd like to throw back to our conversation post-match Giants and our predicted changes. I don't think either of us thought Langford would be back. Or at least we didn't mention it.
Well, yeah,
I mentioned it, but him being 1 or 2 weeks away. So that's...
hadn't thought it through, but if I thought that again, I thought he would be close. Yes, but you're right.
Now, I believe we both said Ham out.
Definitely.
I really should
And I
have
would.
looked into this.
Well, we should have really, but I
And
mean,
we definitely talked about Hooker and Francis, but I don't know if
we
either of us put
we
them.
both definitely said Francis. I definitely didn't think of Dylan Clark.
No,
I
definitely
didn't
not.
know he was on the radar. So either way, I mean,
I mentioned Waterman too. I'm sorry, I keep whacking my microphone.
yeah, that's right. Waterman, I thought would deserve a game. He was pretty good, but yeah, look, I'm very happy with the ins and outs. I'm really, really. I
So
think you texted me earlier to say really good ins, and I looked at the team.
good ins, but
Well,
equally good ins for Sydney. That's
yeah, but I'm not can't worry about. I can't. I'm not worried
No,
about other clubs. I just want our club to be doing the right thing,
I know.
and the rest will follow.
Open your other eye. The Medi sub will be from Guelphy, Waterman, Bryan, and Ham. I reckon Guelphy's probably the good Medi sub out of that lot.
Yeah, but I do have an issue with that. Like, can you play 2 weeks in a row without playing football? Like,
Yeah, he'd be fresh.
okay, fair enough.
Well, yeah,
you'll be training during the week, obviously. I guess.
Waterman doesn't really work because he's kind of
I agree, Waterman's
one
not
trick.
right.
Bryan's not your sub, and then it's either him or Ham, which
Ham's possible.
maybe, but I'd rather a bigger body.
Yeah, I agree.
If I had to pick,
What are we worried about with Sydney though? Their speed, the ball movement's going to be
their ball
the thing that's
movement
going to kill us.
is
They kick the ball very well.
and that's
we haven't
been
really
our
talked
issue.
about how we're going to win this or lose this because I don't think we can.
Well, that's a good segue. Now I watched. I mean, obviously, the last 2 weeks we've commented on how easy the opposition has moved the ball. We got away with it against North. We got exposed against Giants.
We
I
can't
watched
do it against Sydney.
Sydney a couple of weeks ago when they came back against GWS, and their ball movement was phenomenal.
It's beautiful to watch. Like,
Pinpoint.
They are a club that's going to hurt teams in the future.
Yeah, it's quick, it's accurate, and it's forward. They're not kicking it backwards.
Right.
If they go sideways, it's sideways, not backwards. Like it's into the middle.
That's right, because they're going to forwards. They're going to really, well, for one, having someone like Franklin down there, but Papley down at his feet, and he's at Isaac Heaney, and even Sam Reid, who can get up the ground a bit. Like, they are 3 very good forwards.
Like, if we can start a new little segment here, sort of bold statements for the game ahead, that's a poor name, but
what?
It would be like Buddy and Papley to kick at least 10 between them. We're going to struggle. Papley's class. Papley is absolute class. Heaney's class. And Buddy has kicked 83 goals. So that scares me a lot. It's going to be a massive job for our backline. I think
massive job for our backline who hasn't been great.
Who haven't been great, no. When we've talked about why we win games and lose games, it's all been about forward entry. Bugger forward entry. We've got to worry about defence. And ground defence too, not just our back line.
Yep. Not back 6, back
it's the
22.
entire team. If you're a forward, you need to be making tackles inside our forward 50 and keeping the ball there. If you're a midfielder, you got to worry about the ball going the other way. And if you're a defender, cross your arms and freaking pray.
Agree, 100%. It's going to be a really tough game. I think it's doable. They're still a young side. They're still susceptible to pressure, and we've got to bring the pressure. Ramp up tackles, pressure tackles.
How do we even beat them? Like, what is it? Obviously, we defend well. That's part of it. I guess it's the ground defense.
We have to get the ball back off them, which is going to be really hard because they kick the ball so well.
If we can stop that, that's a big task, though. Yeah, I didn't realise how actually scary Sydney are. I knew they were good.
Well, when you say it like this, I don't think we can win. But for some strange reason, I believe we can.
That's called Essendon syndrome. That's it. Again, I'll come up with a better name for that. All right. We're coming up 25 minutes. That's pretty much all we had to talk about, I think. Can I get a tip, please? Without a song.
Just the tip. I've forgotten about my little song. Just the tip with Nath and Sam.
So if I didn't say anything, I wouldn't have got the song.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got the song. Look, gut says Essendon, but when we talk about what we just talked about, practicality says Sydney. So if I have to make a tip, I'll go a draw.
Look, if that happens, you're a mastermind and Channel 7 will come knocking.
Not going to happen, mate. I just don't like to pick against us.
I have no such fear. I will say Sydney by...
You mother! How can we do this in Essendon podcast when you're picking Sydney? What's
Because
the point of this?
we're realistic.
What's that? That's it. You're sacked.
We're not. It's my podcast.
People I'd like to call out for any new hosts of the podcast.
Yeah,
If
replacing
anybody wants to-
Nathan because it's my pod. We're here to be realistic. We're here to talk facts.
You're
We're
right,
here
I
to
know.
be, not nuffies. Which probably isn't working so far. I want to say 63, but
Oh my God, Sam!
I'm not. I'm going to say 43.
Oh, Sam!
And that's not a...
People will be hanging up right now. They'll be stopping.
Well,
this
that's okay,
and going,
'cause we're-
a dislike. They're going to
We're
go
nearly
thumbs
done.
down.
If you're about to click off, I'm sorry.
Hit subscribe and
Hit
get more
subscribe.
information about how teams will beat us.
If you subscribe, I'll never tip against us again.
If we can get 100 subscribers,
I'll never tip against us ever again.
Sam will never.
No
tip
matter
you,
what I
and you'll-
think, I will
And
sell
we'll send
myself
you out a
out.
T-shirt.
No, we won't. We haven't got T-shirts. Stop over-promising and under-delivering.
I've got lots of old T-shirts, Sam. I don't know what the problem.
No,
is.
not your T. We don't care about your T-shirt. So, Swans by 43, and that's not a reflection of us, I don't think, being overly poor. I just think it's Sydney are
Yeah.
a very good side, in good form. I just hope that it's one of those games where we've got a bit of a history of being close with them. If it can be an interesting game and we're in it at three-quarter time and they kick a couple of goals and run away with it, I'm probably happy. Not Richmond style. A bit less than that would be nice.
Yep.
But-
There's surely a reason they've won 4 more games than us this far into the season. No.
And they had a little slump. They had a little slump mid-season and
This-
everyone thought they were going to fall away. We were eyeing off their spot in the 8 if we were going to make it.
Yep.
And now they're, like I said, them Bulldogs. Geelong. You have to say Geelong. For form teams in the comp. So,
Yep.
And I think they've got a bit more polish than Geelong. Not polish, they've got a bit more speed than Geelong. And I reckon that'll hurt
Definitely
us
more
a
speed.
bit more than what Geelong did.
Yep.
All right. Nothing else to add?
I'm just disappointed in you, Sam.
That's fine. I'm disappointed. You didn't tip us to win either.
I didn't tip against us.
But you didn't tip us. What would Truck say? Truck, if you're listening, text
Truck
me.
wouldn't tip against us.
No, he wouldn't. He's not allowed to.
He's
on payroll. He's on payroll. We're not on payroll.
Do they have a tipping competition like at football clubs and you tip against your own club?
All I can remember seeing in the papers and stuff is that players involved in that don't tip the game they're involved in. Because can you imagine like a North Melbourne
on your own player, own club?
Well, you imagine just a North Melbourne player playing Geelong this week or whoever, whatever, going, yeah, I think they'll beat us. That's not what you want to see as a fan, is it?
Wouldn't it be honest though? You go, well, come on, it's fair enough. You're walking into a slaughter.
Again, you'd question the mentality. I think any AFL player should be walking on that ground going, we're a sneaky shot here.
Well,
Maybe not. All right. On that note, if you can hit the subscribe button, that would mean a lot to us both. We won't send you a free T-shirt that's been worn by Nathan and no longer fits. But it will mean a lot to us.
Even a like is exciting.
A like is exciting. The only likes we've got so far are our own channels.
My children, I get my children to put a little like.
Mine's
They're nice.
too young for YouTube channels, but I have like 3, so we get at least 3 likes a week. All right, go Dons, and we'll chat on Sunday.
Go Bombers.